Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast. I'm your host and editor of the Gamers Book, Mike Plant, and with me is our video games record manager, Luke Wakeham.
Hello.
And our pair of trained video game journalists.
Oh,
say trained.
Heavily trained.
House trained?
House trained. Yeah, that's about the sum of it. Jack Turner.
Combat.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Hello.
Oh,
and Andy Lachlan.
Hello.
Hello. We've got a great show for you this week. So we are coming to you just after Google has unleashed the megaton of information on its new streaming service.
Yep.
And we've got lots of other things to get through, including On the Record, which is a pretty exciting games record for the world of video games this year. We'll get to that a little bit later. Before we start the show, to say if you enjoy this show, you can watch our archive of old shows on YouTube, or if you want to listen, we're also available on all of the major streaming services, including Spotify, iTunes, you name it. Right, on with the show. Okay, so should we just start with the news rather than what we've been playing, or does anyone want to jump in first?
Well, should we start with Google?
Shall we? It does feel like it needs it, doesn't it? Okay.
We did just watch an hour and a half of
we did
a rather dry presentation.
So for those who haven't heard the context of this, so Google went to GDC, the Games Developers Conference in San Francisco, and as promised, they kind of had a load of information on their new game streaming service. So there wasn't a lot of information they gave out before. A lot of companies had speculated on like online websites and such, and they were all pretty much accurate in their speculation, probably. So just to get him straight in there with the name, so it's called Stadia. Which is we're happy to try this thing. It seems like an odd, like it was the logo as well, looked a little old school, but not in a good way. It wasn't very Google, was it? It was a bit.
It looked a bit like a sort of telecoms company logo.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And also, Stadia doesn't lend itself to being a verb. Like, I'm going to stay at home and do
like
some
Netflix or
Netflix and chill, Stadia and
or Twitch or
Stadia and Twitch.
But it does sound
Stadia
weird
and Twitch
stacked up against PlayStation or Xbox, doesn't it?
I'm trying to think of what people say but even saying like I'm going to Google it, you're not going to say I'll Stadia it. I don't think.
Maybe we will, Mike.
Maybe we will.
Just think once.
New AC game coming out, I'll Stadia it.
I guess when you think about it, once upon a time when you first heard the Wii name,
Yeah,
that was
that's
ridiculous.
crazy.
That is true.
Yeah.
But
That's a great name.
Well, and the Switch was as well, really. At first.
That's true.
The Wii U is still ridiculous. Isn't it?
But as expected, it's not a hardware device, although you can use it on a hardware device. It's a streaming platform, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's reaching out to a server room where the game runs on a very high end
Data center.
Several teraflops.
with 10.7 teraflops, which is way more than the Xbox One X, way more than the PS4, as they said.
But with the limitation that it's not in your house.
With the limitations it's not in your house. And what we're really not quite sure of is how it's going to work on sort of fairly spotty internet connections, which a lot of people do have.
Yeah.
Internet connections which are, you've got someone watching Netflix, someone like, kind of Googling, someone playing Spotify. How is it going to work in a real world environment that's not basically a San Francisco tech demo room?
Yeah, well, I mean, so for example, I was playing Apex over the weekend, and for some reason, my internet connection for an hour or so was a bit spotty, and I couldn't play the game. It was stuttering, it was just awful. So if that then happens when you're playing Assassin's Creed on Stadia, then I can't play that game. So anyway, should we just go through the kind of key points of what they sort of said? So first of all, they were keen to say you'll get high fidelity graphics over low latency. So they did. That was the only instance at the start of the show where they kind of addressed people who might not have like whatever fiber broadband you care to mention. Any device with Chrome browser basically can use Stadia. So that includes phones, tablets, PCs, Chromebooks, Chromecast on your TV. So that's the crucial thing. You can, using, what was the name of the exact Chromecast? The Chromecast Ultra.
4K one.
So you can stream that, attach that to your telly and stream Stadia through that device straight to your TV. So in that way, it could replace your PS4, your Xbox One, or whatever you're using. You can connect any control pad to it, they said, of any device. So including Xbox, PS4. They didn't actually mention Switch, but that was the rumour, so maybe Switch is part of it too. But there is also, the only bit of hardware really they did mention that was brand new was the fact there's a a Stadia control pad, which looked exactly like the Xbox control pad with a few extra buttons. For what was the main ones for? There was like ones for sharing,
capture.
I think the idea was also that it connects via the internet directly to the data center, so it's not going through anything. It's supposed to be, to improve any sort of latency for controller inputs.
It also had
that's been one of the that's been one of the big problems with streaming games in the past. Actually, that when you're trying to we had it in CES a few years ago, didn't we? Where we were trying to play Street Fighter, and you would do Hadouken or whatever, and literally a second later it would do it on the screen. It was just pretty.
You can't have any lag, can you? And that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, so okay, if they've solved that problem, then great. That would be fantastic. If basically just the idea is that you buy games in the Stadia store, and then it goes to, I assume it gets associated with your Google Cloud account, and then you can just go on YouTube and basically play them. Play them straight off, jump in. It didn't seem to have any kind of load lag at all, which is pretty impressive. And they say they'll go up to 4K HDR
8K,
and even up to 8K
in the future.
I mean, 8K is coming to NHK in Japan next year on a TV basis. I think it's probably theoretically possible, but I mean, I think that's kind of just the future proofing it to a certain extent. Not that you really need to, because basically it's not a piece of hardware, is it? But anyway, it was a good little thing for them.
So there's no patches, no updates, no installation was their thing. No. So they showed a comedy loading bar where it was going, oops,
oh no,
installing,
you guys.
But I mean, that is quite good. I mean, it's every time I switch my Xbox on, so I don't often use it in comparison to the PlayStation, because that's kind of our Netflix console. I won't bore you with the details, but it takes a long, a long old time for the Xbox to switch on every time, because it always has a new update a new patch for the actual system. Whereas at least this thing sort of bypasses all that, so it doesn't matter how often you use it. I suppose the game's always going to be the most up to date, because there is no console, so you don't have to update your console, and the game is updated at their end on all their beautiful teraflops.
So they said 5 seconds, didn't they?
They did say 5 seconds.
And it's built, isn't it, for streaming community basically. So it's for the YouTubers who are streaming games, jump in with the games they're playing, see what they're playing. I assume they'll have a heavy plug for buying the games as well. So if you're playing loads and loads of Doom or something, then there'll be a heavy plug for you to go and buy it.
They didn't say what percentage the YouTubers get when they recommend that you go and buy that game.
I think there was a couple of things that I felt were kind of missing that needed to iron out. It was basically, how does it work in the real world? It would be great if they'd done a demo with someone on a very throttle connection down to a couple of meg or something like that, and said, right, here, look, this is amazing. This is someone in rural area getting playing the game. I suppose that might come. Secondly, I was still not quite clear how much the games cost.
No, I get the feeling it's not a subscription; it's a one-off price for each game.
Yeah.
Seemed to be how because they showed Google Play, like the Google Play Store you've got on Android phones, or a store very similar to that, which was called the Stadia Store.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't have any prices or anything like that. But it looked like whoever was browsing through it was just going through game by game by game, of which was basically just Doom and Assassin's Creed. So they didn't show any other games at this stage. But yeah, there was no they didn't really clarify at all. There was not really any mention of price or how if there was a subscription service or how it was all going to be, because ultimately it made it kind of sound like it was all going to be free as part of YouTube, but clearly it's not going to be.
I wonder if it'll be part of YouTube, like premium YouTube Red. If part of it,
I mean, that would be great if it was, but I mean, how expensive is that? It's not that expensive, is it? So
I think it's not cheap though. I don't think, isn't it? It's like £5-6 quid a month.
I could see them throwing you a couple of games,
maybe
PlayStation, Xbox. Do they give you a couple of games each month?
That'd be one way of doing it. And then if you want more, you can get the premium pass, I suppose.
Premium pass.
Premium. Yeah. But then as well, it did seem to suggest it's buying each game separately. So it was quite a confused, mixed message.
You get the feeling that they want to get people onto the platform, don't you? They want to get streamers over to YouTube away from Twitch. They want to get developers making the games, and then basically they will pull more people into the Google ecosystem. So you're in the YouTube, you're using the cloud services, and then they can upsell you to additional storage and cloud saves and all this kind of other stuff which they could do. So they're quite happy to run something on a free basis, because obviously they get other money from elsewhere.
I just don't think that's going to be the way, because I think there'd be a massive uproar from the likes of PlayStation and Xbox if suddenly a load of big games are completely free over YouTube. It's just not going to happen, is it? So
yeah, but does Google care? I assume it's just banking on the developers wanting to be on Google more than
maybe
others,
we'll see.
Yeah, but they're also siphoning people to YouTube because it automatically records your gameplay, right? So to YouTube, so they're taking people outside the Twitch system. I wonder if you can even stream one of the games on Twitch via. I guess if you can capture the stream from Google, you must be able to. But,
what would be good is if, say, we four wanted to play, the Division 2. Could we all be in the same game and then sort of share our streams, but then also interlace them so that, like, you could say, okay, now you're the main one on the main stream. So we've got, like, the Guinness World Records stream going, and then for a while you're the lead character that people are watching. Then we swap to Andy, then we swap to me, then we swap to Luke, and you can actually create a show that way, which would be really good.
Yeah, I think that would be.
If it's that simple, then it would be really cool. The other interesting thing was that they showed YouTubers playing the game, people watching them, and then you could jump into that game with them. They didn't really sort of say if that's going to be a feature at the start.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was like a future gazing feature to me, the way they kind of talked about it towards the end of the show. But that would be really interesting if, people playing Fortnite, say a Ninja's playing and you want to join Ninja in that game. Then you could jump in and presumably play.
I mean, it wasn't quite clear when you would jump in. Do you sort of, they showed NBA and you get on the lobby, but is that kind of, if it's a match of Fortnite, you can't just jump in halfway through.
Well, that's true, yeah.
It's like putting your pound on the pool table.
I'm next.
Basically, I'm next.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And I think obviously they're going to make games as well. So the Stadia Creative Studios,
Entertainment Studio.
I did write it down somewhere. Stadia Games and Entertainment. You were both right. Both right and both wrong. That's the way we like it.
So that's headed up by Jade Raymond, who's been dropping some hints about what she's been doing at Google.
Yeah, so her job was confirmed as the head of Stadia Games and Entertainment. So she was formerly of Ubisoft and then EA. I think she was tied to one of the Star Wars titles that got what do they call it? Pivoted.
Pivoted in the bin.
Yeah, which means thrown in. It's whether way. Anyway, so she's now landed on her feet, it seems, at Google, because that's probably one of the most exciting jobs you can get with the money you've got at your backing. Oh, lights.
Yeah. Let there be light.
One of the lights just came on for anyone who's listening to this. Not just me having some sort of strange interlude. So she came on and said it's launching in 2019, but I kind of thought at that point they would go, and here's all the companies or some of the new games we're working on, but they didn't do that.
Well, I think you've got to look at the circumstances. So they're presenting it to a largely tech audience, developer audience. This is probably the sales pitch. So get on board. We're Google. We're making an amazing platform. It's going to be so many players access to. So you won't need to go and buy a box from the shop and have to spend the money. You can, if you use the internet, basically you can get on board. So that if you were a developer, you go, ooh. And if the architecture is just browser based, you would have thought if it's the load is powerful enough, it's probably pretty accessible for a developer, isn't it? Really, they were showing off some of the tools they've got. The kind of, I can't remember what they call it, but it was like a texture engine. There was
a swapping of textures they showed on the fly for the people making the games at the back end. So it's not only is it a way to play games, it's a way to make games. They were kind of insinuating, weren't they, throughout the show?
So you think if they're offering really positive kind of deals to developers, they're going to bite their hand off for it, aren't they, really? Because it's probably a hell of a lot easier for them to make a game. So they're appealing to the streamers, they're appealing to the game developers, and you think probably E3, maybe later in the year, they're going to come to us out and say it's all available and we've got 3 different huge titles and all this kind of stuff.
Here's a bet for E3 show. There won't be any who come around at E3 this year.
Won't be anybody.
The one thing that slightly confused me was at what point, when you're playing a game from the start, say Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that's what they kept showing, and then you get 10 hours in, how does it know when you then pick up on a different browser?
It'll be on a crowd safe, won't it?
Yeah. So you'd have to log in for your account, of course.
Logging in and inputs whenever you made an input on a different device.
Okay,
that was just like Google Docs, isn't it? It'll just be like a cloud save. So basically, that's how it is. It's just holding it for you. I guess in that sense, like, what was the cloud sort of? How much can you save effectively? You get about 15 gig. I think you get free from Google Drive. So is there a kind of free Stadia amount of allowance?
Although 15 gigs a lot, I don't.
For a save game. You're not going to be holding the games, because that's, I assumed, would just be on the platform. Yeah,
definitely. There must, maybe that's. No, there can't even be anything local. Well, maybe. And there can't be anything locally stored, can there? So it's all done there.
No, you don't store Google Docs.
So what do we think, before we move on to more news, that Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo made of that conference?
I think they're going to be worried because ultimately that's effectively a kind of platform agnostic. I mean, obviously you've got to use Chrome, but Chrome's what the most popular browser, I think, by market share. Yeah. So it's not like people are going to go, oh no. But ultimately, they're probably thinking you're still going to need the games, and you're still not going to get Sony games, you're still not going to get Nintendo games, you're not going to get Microsoft games. So you're going to have to scrabble for what's left. And a lot of those studios are now tied in relationships. So Google, yeah, big player, you've got to be worried. YouTube as a platform is really worried, but still, you know, they are coming into the market as newbies, and you probably think Sony and Microsoft are keeping an eye on it, but they've still got a lot of aces.
The one outlier for me is Nintendo, because I think the head of Nintendo at some point in the last 6 months or so kind of said that in the future he envisages a point when Nintendo won't be making consoles anymore. Yeah. And he probably knew about this whole project, because I'm sure a lot of people in the industry have known about Stadia for a while and services like it that maybe from Amazon or whatever. And I wonder if Nintendo could be the first hardware developer to jump on making just games and you know, and embrace this kind of future of streaming.
Possibly, yeah, but I put on Twitter as well, like, not only with the fixed networks issues, but also if I'm going to be playing these games on the go, it's going to rinse my mobile data. Like, you know, I'm not going to be able to play it like my Switch.
Yeah, you have to be over Wi-Fi, maybe 5G, but you have to be paying a lot of money for your 5G data. So.
You know, there's going to have to be a complete reshuffling of how streaming is done in terms of the load and whether they can do something. But then you've got issues with net neutrality. If you're speeding things up, you're favouring different intersect traffic. It's not a simple yes to that. So there's a lot of questions, but I think they're right at the start. They did that Assassin's Creed demo. It went really quite well. They're just getting it out to a bigger service. But, you know, it feels like they're right at the start.
Well, that's what they said, the Assassin's Creed thing. So again, just to go to the point where they didn't mention speed of the at the user end. They even went so far as to having what they said was a really poor spec PC. They said they bought the worst PC they could buy.
Yeah.
But then they didn't say we bought the worst broadband connection.
Yeah. And that's the elephant in the room, isn't it, really? Because ultimately it still needs to make a connection. So I use Google Docs on the train all the time, and the train Wi-Fi is rubbish, and it also drops out all the time. So the Google Docs goes, it just freezes, then it said you're not connected, then it comes back, and it just keeps doing that on a cycle as my internet connection goes in and out.
Which is fine on a document.
But also, you know, they've probably got a real high-end server going behind there. Probably not as much as this, but my connection is still the last mile. It's still the last point, and it's still what I experience. So I just don't know how, with this makeup of technology, you can say if someone's got half a meg and someone's, you know, on the internet in their house, how that's going to work. I just don't know how it's going to provide a good connection. But I'm here to be proved wrong.
So at the end of the show, they did mention that. Oh, there was one other thing actually, the Google Assistant thing we should mention. So this means that if you're, they showed it with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah.
So the player was in one of the tombs in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and was like, "Oh, I can't get out of this tomb. I'm lost in a tomb." And you could talk to Google Assistant and say, "How do I get out of this tomb, Google?" And then it would say, you know, just work it out.
Yeah, just mocks you.
It doesn't say that. It tells you how to get out of the tomb, which is interesting. Like, Nintendo have experimented with making Mario easy in the past. If you get killed so many times, you get like a helping hand through the level, and there's a few other games that do that. But I mean, I don't know. Just for me, I'm old school. It takes a challenge out slightly, doesn't it? I'm just imagining Andy with what we were saying with Bloodborne.
Oh God!
How do I kill this boss? You're not going to.
I was still on the title screen.
Well,
too hard.
I suppose in theory, in that world, Andy could ask Google how to get past the boss, but in theory, someone could also jump into his game, right? If it's that simple.
You can in Bloodborne.
Something that simple. I don't know. I suppose in that game you can summon people, can you?
Or just have someone else play your character.
Well, I don't know. They didn't show that happening, but I wonder if that is something that will come into it
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, are you bad at this game? We'll just get you past.
Imagine that as a job, wouldn't it? That'd be a good job.
£5 to get you past vacuous ROM.
Vacuous ROM. You'd have paid that at the
time. Assistant player.
Helping out the rubbish ones.
So at the end of the show, they basically said the thing is launching sometime this year. They didn't give a date, and they've got another show in the summer where they're going to show the games.
Yeah.
So I presume more than Odyssey, Doom Eternal, and a couple of and Tomb Raider, which were the 3 things they kept showing
Assassin's
actual
Creed
footage.
3.
So we can assume from that it won't even launch by the summer, right? If they've got another event in the summer.
Yeah, it would seem to me it's going to be September, October time. Do you think? Although that's then around the console KSP, so. Yeah. I don't know. It's
could be a lot of excited kids at Christmas time with Stadia wrapped up under the Christmas tree.
This is it. It's not even
just a Chromecast.
Google control pad.
Yeah, Google Play credit. Yep.
But anyway, it's we're all old and been around the block a few times, but apart from one. But it is really interesting. I mean, the thought of being able to take your game anywhere. I've been complaining a bit recently because I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I'd love it if my PS4 was something I could port with me, like the Switch, because I want to be playing Apex, whatever's on PS4 only. Anything that's not on the Switch, basically. So it'd be great to have something that I don't even have to lug a Switch around. I can just literally have my login and it works anywhere.
But I think also, like, we've been saying for ages that the console market's got a bit stagnant, and it's a new player. It's a significant new player as well. I mean, they've got some amazing infrastructure, particularly in internet delivery of content. So it's like, it's big. It's still quite unclear about whether it's just going to be one of those Google things that they talk about for a while and it disappears. But
is this on live?
Yeah.
Although they seem to be throwing a lot of money at it, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean,
there was a lot, like all the big bosses of Google was at this conference. They had a whole new division essentially with the entertainment and Stadia entertainment and games. So they had like everything. It looked like they were serious about rolling this thing out for the future as well.
It's a $25 billion industry. I mean, like, if you don't want a piece of that as a tech company, then it's kind of wrong with you, really. But so I think, it could be significant.
I wonder what it means for Sony and Microsoft in terms of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox 2. Are they going to start incorporating more streaming functions?
Well, Xbox has been showing a lot of its streaming recently, so they're clearly going that way for Xbox 2.
And there's also the rumoured all-digital version. I wonder if that's got something to do with this.
We talked about that a bit last week, but I mean, there's no doubt they'll probably try some kind of streaming service with that as well before during this generation.
You kind of assume that also with the YouTube app on those consoles, they won't let them stream games through it, will they? Like,
so it was as simple as pressing a button on YouTube, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think that functionality would be blocked heavily. So
unless it's not, and they have just gone embraced. But I just
But if it
can't see them playing along.
If it launches in Chrome, it's not going to work on the consoles, is it? Because you can't get
true,
Chrome on.
Yeah, true.
I suppose it would need the Chrome browser to play, wouldn't it? So that will probably be why.
The other thing as well is that obviously Amazon is rumoured to be looking at this space too, so maybe they were waiting, and maybe we'll find out in the next few weeks that Amazon also has something to say about a similar service using its own service.
Apple's event is next Tuesday, I think, 26th. No, maybe next Thursday. And that's where under the banner it's Showtime, so it's supposed to be their new Netflix rival. But maybe there's a game service as well in there. They're going for a full content suite with the music, the games, and the movies. Which could be quite significant, and maybe even a new iPod device or something like that.
There's no doubt it's a pretty interesting time as we head into the 2020s. Imagine. Where are we? Oh God, we've done a third of the show now, so let's move swiftly onto a couple more little news nuggets.
Ooh,
news nugget.
News nugget.
Yum.
Angry Birds AR. I just wrote that down for
you.
It looks
good. So today of all days to announce something gaming related, and for some reason they announced Angry Birds AR, which is a bold move. I don't know how many headlines I'll be getting, but
is AR a thing still?
I'm going to mention it right now. So it looks all right. So it's a augmented reality game, iPhone exclusive to start with. So you are the bird. You're not actually. No.
You're throw your phone.
Actually, you're
an April Fool.
Technically, you're the catapult, I suppose. So you've got the POV of the catapult. Andy, why are you laughing? This is serious business. And the pigs have built their little castles in front of you.
Really?
Whatever you're aiming your phone at, basically. And it's like it looks like. Do you remember Boom Blocks for the Wii?
Yes.
No one. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was really good.
Steven Spielberg.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. He was supposed to be doing a whole series of games, and that was his only one.
They made Boom Blocks 2. Boom Blocks.
Oh well.
Was he involved in that?
I think
like he was involved in Jaws too.
But it looks alright. I'll give it a go. Yeah. Angry Birds is relevant.
When is it out?
Spring.
Spring
2019.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Can't
Not long to go then.
Yep.
Other news. So Apex Legends Season 1 began today. Tuesday as we record this. So season 1 is called the Wild Frontier. There's no just Wild Frontier. It costs 950 Apex coins, which is about $9.50. I think it's also £9.50. Is it? I can't quite remember how much things cost in the store. I don't know what I'm looking at looking for.
So you exchange rates, I don't know.
Kind of like the Fortnite system of the Battle Pass, where you get loads of rewards as you level up, and you get more skins and more cosmetics and just various things to make your character stand out from the others. It's not pay to win or anything. It's just you just look a bit different,
right?
And you get a new character called Octane, who is this chap who's a very skinny bloke with no legs, but with robotic legs where they in place.
Right.
And yeah, he looks like a bit of fun. But basically, look just like Fortnite. The whole point is that as you play, you unlock more and more Apex coins. So in the end, if you've done it well and got all the way to all the levels of the Battle Pass, you get to then get the next Battle Pass for Season 2 for essentially free, because you've got enough money, in-game currency to buy Season 2's Battle Pass. So if you play it a lot, you only really have to buy it once, and you can theoretically keep it going. So yeah, it's a cool way to add more and more to Apex. What it doesn't have, which has been a little bit of a fan outcry, is challenges like Fortnite. So in Fortnite, it might have you doing, go to this place, climb this, do like some sort of challenge. This is all about just leveling up at the moment. But then Fortnite's on Season 8. This is only Season 1, so it's got a while.
Do you reckon they'll include sort of map changes? Because that's again a big thing about the Fortnite seasons, is big changes to the map.
I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any in Wild Frontier yet. But they did then put a roadmap out which shows that every 3 months, just like Fortnite again, there'll be a new. So there's one around Christmas time, so I'd be amazed if it's not suddenly snowing or something like that. You know. So, but yeah, we'll see how flexible the engine is, I suppose, in Apex, because Fortnite, like you say, it's got so much they can seemingly endlessly do with it to make it change. But yeah, I'm sure there must be a plan in there for. I can't remember the name of the. It's got like a name of the island, but I can't remember. But yeah, I'm sure they'll be evolving it as they go. And then this thing as well, Back for Blood. So you were talking about this. So this is Turtle Rock Studios, who basically are consisting of lots of people who made Left 4 Dead, and then they went on to make Evolve. And this studio is now going to create Back for Blood, which obviously is pretty much just Left 4 Dead all over again. Looks really cool. There's not been any it sounds really cool. There's not been any footage or anything put out with it yet. It's just been this announcement. But yeah, does anyone have good memories of Left 4 Dead?
I do, yeah. I remember just playing it like split screen. I never actually played it online.
Yeah,
just played
it was
split
awesome
screen
with
with a friend, and you're just like, "Come save me! I'm down! I'm down!" But I remember that being quite a fun game, because it's just a case of you actually do have to play it kind of tactically. You can't just run in and go zombies.
Well, you can to a certain extent, and then it does that thing where it unleashes all the zombies onto you, and that's where you've got to properly think about it. I loved it. Like, I used to play it all the time. It was great. 4-player. I used to play it online, and it kind of was one of the first games that forced teamwork in a game, and in a really like sensible way. I think with Evolve, then they assumed that everyone wanted to then combine to fight giant big beasts, and it turned out that no one really did. But I think that this is if they do it right. Did any of you guys play Left 4 Dead? One or two?
Briefly.
Very briefly. It is a Left 4 Dead game, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's because that was Valve. So this is totally a new IP. Just happens to be exactly the same as Left 4 Dead. Well, from what it sounds like. They say it's designed from the ground up as an original premium title. Marries the best of what made the co-op zombie shooter so successful with new features and state-of-the-art technology. So basically, it's Left 4 Dead with a new name.
Fancy Left 4 Dead.
I suppose like Valve doesn't make games anymore, so anyway.
Well, they're making. Technically, they're making the what's it called? The one about the pyramids.
Valley of the Kings.
Because they bought the people who are making it. So there you go. So yeah, I thought that was a cool little bit of snippet of news as well. Anyone else got any more news before we move on? Just what I've been up to.
Just the Angry Birds stuff.
I've only got eyes for Angry Birds.
We were talking about System Shock 3, weren't we?
So there was a. So Warren Spector's back at the helm of System Shock, which is interesting.
I'm looking forward to that, actually.
So all they showed was a very short trailer and a bit of Showdown. Showdown looks a bit different. Looks like she's had a facelift or something now. But it's facelift. Computer facelift. Right, should we start should we go to where we should have started and discuss some of the games we've been playing? Because I know that Jack is burning to tell us about Lego. Okay, so Jack, tell us all about a game I can't even say the name
So
of. You say
excited,
it.
it's unreal.
It is the. Hang on, wait a sec. It's the
Drum roll.
the Lego Movie 2, the video game.
Oh,
Thank you, which is a sequel to the Lego Movie, the video game,
Yeah, makes sense.
based on the Lego Movie and the Lego Movie 2.
Not the video game.
Not the video game.
Okay.
The novelisation, which does exist. I've seen it in Sainsbury's.
What came first?
What came first?
The film or the novelisation?
The budget came first. So the Lego Movie 2, the video game, is the latest Lego video game, of which there have been... how many times can I say Lego in this segment?
This is so insightful.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So there's been quite a few Lego games, as you probably would have noticed, and they get a bit of stick for... I think some people perceive them as all being the same, but actually that's not quite the case. And they do actually iterate with each title. And if you've played a lot of them, like I have, you'll know that for a fact. So I would say the Lego Movie... Oh, I'm fed up with saying the name
Just
already.
say Lego 2.
Yeah. So thanks. Yeah. So I would say Lego 2 actually makes some quite big changes in the franchise. So for starters, one of the main things about the game is building stuff. Obviously, that's consistent throughout all the games. In this one, you still build stuff, but you don't break... Anyone who hasn't played a Lego game at this point is thinking, what is happening? So in the Lego games, you break things down and build them into other things. In this game, you have a scanner and you can take images of things, which you then add to your catalogue, and then you select it from your catalogue and build it that way, rather than your little person building it.
And these things are what? Planes, trains?
Automobiles.
There's a lot of that, yeah, there's a lot of that. The castles, shops, the whole lot. But mainly it's little trampolines to get you to places you need to get to. So it's all things that help you get past obstacles. Another big change is you no longer have characters who are skill-based. So previously you'd need a strong character to break down the wall and that kind of thing.
Someone with a zip line.
Oh yeah, you've got it. You've been
I
there.
played some of them.
You've lived the dream that is Lego games. And so this time around you use your tools for that. So the characters you get are randomly assigned,
Okay.
which is
So you're not Batman
heresy.
or Superman or whoever's
So
in the
you,
film.
you can be the characters in the film, but you have to find them. And you find them via, wait for it, loot crates in the world.
Oh no!
You go to a crate, you open it up, you get some materials for building, and you get little gems. You go to a shop and you turn it in, and then you get to open the things you found in the crates,
What?
and you get characters, etc. So it's like a loot crate, except you're not paying for it.
That's an
Yeah.
acceptable form of
I think it's quite fun as well. I think people enjoy not knowing what they're getting.
Well, it goes back to the collectible cards and, open or, the old-fashioned football sticker book we all had as kids or whatever, and you don't know what's in the pack, and it's just the...
John Barnes twice in one packet.
Yeah.
How is that even possible?
Not Barnes again. There's also a sandbox area, which is a bit Minecrafty, where you can go and play with all the things you found.
You played the Supervillains game too, right?
Yeah.
So how does this compare to that? Which is your, which do you prefer?
Supervillains.
Yeah.
Supervillains is a lot more classic Lego. This game, if you've played Lego Worlds, it takes a lot of cues from Lego. It's more similar to Lego Worlds, I would say.
That's like the Minecraft.
Yeah,
type
which is the
thing.
Minecraft
Yeah.
one. Imagine Lego Worlds, but with a story. It uses a lot of the same systems.
That's Dragon Quest Builders.
That is
Also true.
but also there's a lot of side quests in the levels as well. So there's a lot of things to do once you finish the game. Lots of stuff to collect, like all the Lego games. I enjoyed it. If you've seen the movie, it makes a lot more sense. It hits all the beats of the movie. Lots of varied levels. It's a good Lego game, but it is slightly different. It's not a classic Lego game, I would say.
Me review, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Because I ain't seen it.
I would give it a 6 stud Lego brick.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Not if you stamp.
The other
That's
game
true.
you've been playing is The Occupation.
Yeah, so I've been
right?
playing 2 completely different games. So the other game is The Occupation from White Paper Games, which is a first-person adventure game set in 1987 in the UK, in England, sorry. And it's a real-time adventure game, and the basic premise is that there's been a big terrorist attack at a government building, and the government are using this to pass through the Union Act, which would effectively, again, this is pretty heavy coming off the back of Lego.
So Lego Batman turns up. And it's, meh.
So then you get into the loot crates, and no, not really. So the government are trying to pass this Union Act, which would effectively call for all immigrants into England to be deported. It's a pretty heavy storyline, and they're using this terrorist attack as a reason to do it. You're a journalist who's gone in to investigate what happened with the terrorist attack and who's pulling the strings. There are some murmurs that it's a conspiracy. Ooh. It's all very cloak and dagger. And essentially you go in, so the main gameplay mechanic is you go into these government offices to interview government officials for your story, but you always turn up an hour before your interview. So you can snoop around their offices.
So he's not set his watch to daylight saving.
Oh, he's very punctual. It's very punctual.
So
that's his superpower.
Yeah.
He's punctual man.
Punctual man.
So before your interview, you have 1 real-time hour to snoop around, go to places you shouldn't be, go through people's files, look on people's computers, eavesdrop on people, and that kind of thing. So
just let you do this?
Well, no. So so in the government building, there are open areas which you're allowed to go into, and you can find some things out there. But more often than not, you have to go into the staff-only areas, and there are security guards patrolling. Mainly this guy called Steve, who gets about, and he knows where you're going to be at all times, pretty much. Steve is a weird character because he's a security guard for the whole building, and he's also a wannabe actor. Ooh. And he's always reciting famous lines from films because he's practicing his lines. So you'll hear him coming down the corridor saying something from Star Wars.
I was going to say all from 1987.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all of the time.
It sounds a lot like the Tyrant from Resident Evil 2.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a bit like Deus Ex, but without any skills or tools. If you can imagine.
Imagine so you need to get like a passcode to get through a door.
Yeah. So imagine us blundering around trying to find some files. We'd be terrible at it. So it's a bit like that. So yeah, there's a lot of finding files. There's a lot of finding diskettes which have got secret government data on them.
Yep. Yes.
Some rooms have doors which will sort of magnetize anything that passes through them, so you can't take the diskettes through them, so you've got to find ways to get them. They've got a lot of the government offices have got that pneumatic tube system. So you have to send things to other rooms to pick them up. It's I've really enjoyed it actually. It's a really cool little game. It's something completely different.
Have you got to the end? Have you finished it? Because I was just wondering how long it takes.
It probably takes about 5 to 6 hours, I would say. So I've got to the end. And the game continues on whether or not you're doing well or not. So because it's all in real time, you can go for your appointment and sit and wait in the lobby for an hour if you want, and you can go to the interviews. You can get to the end of the game, and you can basically have found no clues and be no further forward, and the game will wrap up, and that's it. You see an ending. So I got an ending. It wasn't the best ending. So I found some of the stuff, but not all of the stuff. So I didn't.
So do you feel challenged to go back in? And
yeah, definitely. I just felt like I didn't have enough time to see everything. And obviously, if you go through a second time, you know where everything is.
So it's a bit like a promenade performance at the theatre, where on the second run through, you actually know where to go and everything. So yeah, it sounds cool.
It's got quite a good mechanic as well. So if you get caught by Steve snooping around, you don't fail. You get penalised by you get sat in the security office for 15 minutes. But that's
it's a timeout.
Yeah, so you get timeout, but that's a real 15 minutes.
Step,
yeah. So yeah, really enjoying it.
So what, you're just sat there not doing anything?
No, they do do fast forward through that bit. Yeah.
Cool. That sounds really good. Actually, I might check that out myself.
Yeah. What did you play it on?
PS4, and it's on PC as well.
Ooh.
Luke, you have been playing what?
So yeah, I've still been playing DMC5, Devil May Cry 5. Still sort of going on with the story. It's still super cheesy. It's just all one-liners constantly.
Give us some of the one-liners.
No, because they all kind of involve like blood or beheading demons and stuff like that. So
right.
Maybe not. But I'm kind of onto Dante now, and yeah, he's just bonkers. Some of the weapons, like the two sort of half a motorbike split in two type thing, and they're both like chainsaws.
Wow.
And so you're just going through enemies, and it's really satisfying.
Does the motorbike then work when he puts it back together?
Oh, yeah, he drives it. Everything.
That'd be useful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, basically, the motorbike was it's possessed by a demon. So
Right.
that gets around that.
As happens.
So is this pen.
Yeah. I took it for my MOT. It's possessed by a demon, mate.
But I mean, I guess I'm starting to feel a little bit of repetition here, because basically the game is simply just for each mission is go from room to room and just slay the demons. You walk to the room, it locks you off. you slay all the demons in there, and then you move on to the next room.
Yeah.
I mean, the original Devil May Cry had like almost, it felt more like a Resident Evil game because there were sort of puzzles and you were sort of backtracking through different areas. This, it's kind of the only way is forward, and you're just sort of
my
learning.
least favourite Yaz track.
Yeah.
You're just essentially mastering the mechanics and getting better style rankings. It's kind of like if you play a fighting game for an extended period of time, you can sort of feel the repetition. You're just like, oh, am I just fighting again?
So do they introduce new skills or anything to keep it fresh?
So there's a lot of new skills and things to buy, and even like, you know, I'm nearing the end of the game. They're still just unlocking more mechanics and more things, and it's just like, I mean, at one point you've got your devil trigger meter, and then they introduce a new type of mechanic on top of that, and just like, this is getting insane. Because at the end of each mission there's kind of a boss as well, so you're not just basically just like demons, oh, next mission. It does sort of culminate in something, each mission does. But no, as I say, yeah, it's I think they've got a new DLC coming out. It's called the Bloody Palace. That's coming in April.
That's like a practice area, isn't it?
It's it's kind of like a wave-based sort of time attack sort of mode. There's always been a Bloody Palace, I think, since 2, maybe even 3 onwards. I think actually Devil May Cry 3 is based in the Bloody Palace. And so basically, yeah, you're just fighting constant waves of enemies. So this is, again, it's very much just like, right, get good at all the mechanics and comboing and stuff.
It's not going to happen. I don't have enough time.
And so the other thing I've been playing, a bit of a throwback, is Spec Ops the Line. This was on the previous generation, so it's either PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. This was kind of supposed to be, I mean, it's got a very bland sounding title. It just sounds like a sort of generic like military shooter, but this is very much a sort of story driven game, and it's kind of like Apocalypse Now or Heart of Darkness, where Dubai has been like ravaged by a series of like sandstorms, and so it's completely buried, and like this general called Conrad goes there to sort of basically volunteers his entire army regiment to help evacuate the people, but then no one hears from him, and then you are Nolan North, and 2 others are sort of there on a recon mission to try and find out what happened, and everything just escalates, and nothing good is happening to any of these characters. It's such a trip into hell, so
it's
to
like
speak.
it's about madness, isn't it? It's like, you know, a bit like, I mean, that Conrad name is a bit on the nose. It really. I remember previewing this game. I went to, like, it was a long time ago now, but it looks on the face of it like quite a bland shooter, but actually it's got quite a lot of depth, hasn't it? You know, like, you really sort of go through these kind of like weird mental breakdown moments.
It's got a strange style. I mean, very much like in one of the first, I think in the second chapter almost, you're walking through a building and Deep Purple's Hush is playing really loudly. I had to even go into the options and turn the music down a little bit, because there's the idea of it's like an assault on the senses as you're being overwhelmed. Its gameplay is a little bit clunky as a cover shooter. You know, it feels, you know, like the original Gears of War, where you feel a little bit like a tank sort of moving around. It's got it's like a bit like that, and it's got a sticky cover system. But the story is engaging, and it sort of moves at a pace, and there's lots of strange decisions you kind of have to end up making. And they're all kind of, it never gives you much time to think about it. It's like, react now type thing.
It would be like a walking simulator if it was made today, wouldn't it? Or something.
Sure.
Like, they probably, I imagine they'd strip out some of the cover shooters. I think for this game especially, they were going for the storyline. It's famous for its storyline, so I guess
I enjoyed it.
It was. I played like little bits, but I never like properly give it its due. I know it's supposed to be amazing.
It's got a kind of a bit of Bioshock about it, with the sand replacing the water. You know, you're sort of suffocated by the sand.
Or you can go through sandstorms, and then it's where you have no idea where anyone is. And you can just suddenly appear, an enemy will appear in front of you.
It's like disorientating, isn't it?
And you can use, there's also like bits when like enemies are positioned just so underneath some glass. You can shoot the glass and loads of sand will come in. But it could also affect other players, other sort of NPCs. So things are happening.
Cool. Sounds good. I did always mean to check that out. I think I've got it somewhere knocking about in my old
your
dusty shelves.
Cellophane wrapper.
I think we'll just skip straight on the record. We are pushed for time, aren't we? Well, Luke can take this away, but just say we had an exciting bit of gaming news come into the
new
office this
record
week.
comes
So
through,
yeah,
Ooh, hot off the press.
take it away.
So this is the largest collection of video games, and this consists
Full
of
stop.
full stop.
Done-
Yeah.
done-
The biggest collection ever. And this consists of 20,139 items, basically from the second generation of consoles onwards, and was achieved by Antonio Romero Monteiro from the USA, and that was verified on the 2nd of February 2019. So some of the standouts from the collection are I saw stadium events valued at upwards of $12,000.
So what's stadium events again?
It's a
Remind
NES
me.
game.
That's the one that was taken. No, it wasn't that one. There's one that was taken around to all the campuses. It's not that.
That's like
is it?
the World Championship.
Yeah,
thing,
you're right.
isn't
So
it?
what's
the
what's
Nintendo.
stadium events?
It's just kind of a little I think just like an athletics type game.
But it's just rare because it added like a few prints.
Yeah, I think it was actually. I mean, because there's also Wrecking Crew. That one was a Mario game that was, I think, bundled in.
Yeah,
with
right,
some
yeah.
NESs. That's valued at around about €3,500. Both of those for the NES. I also saw Superman for the Atari 2600 in the inventory. Reportedly one of the rarest games. If you have the right one, though, you've got to have the one that's got the yellow writing on the cartridge.
I've got the other one.
Oh, that's too common.
I've got the one with Batman on the front.
I've also, my question to you guys is, do you have any sort of video games themselves, like an actual like boxed video game or just a video game that you hope one day will become super rare? You've got a copy of what is it, Max Payne 3 that you're.
Good luck with
I
that.
don't think that's going to be rare. I've got loads of stuff actually, but yeah. So I've got Uncharted 2, which was like a press edition of it, which comes in like I don't know even how to describe it, like a cloth basically with a map on it, and then you've got this red see-through card that you can layer on the pictures that come with it, and it shows you like a secret message and all this. It's pretty crazy. It's hard to get a value of it. It sometimes goes on eBay for a bit of money, but I've got literally no idea what it would be worth if I was to sell it to. Trouble with games, it's not really got like a properly sorted out auction style thing to it. It's hard to value what you've got sometimes because I suppose you'd have to take it to a specialist fair. And I've also got things that I've speculated on, like Fire Emblem, where it came with like the 3 games on one cartridge.
Oh, okay.
So I've got like a copy of that, the big old box version and stuff. Have you guys got anything under lock and
in the
key?
vault?
Yeah.
I've got a kind of like a carrier bag full of old PlayStation games, just loose.
Get them out of there and get them hermetically sealed. Come on.
It's a bit late for that. No.
Cool. I've got some press stuff as well, like Mike, that's probably worth a few quid, I would guess. But yeah, I feel like limited editions are more often than not a massive con.
Probably.
Because
depends how rare they are, I think. I've got Octopath as well, the box edition.
Oh, yeah.
That's the European one that's not as
probably worth
cool.
a few quid, isn't it? That's got to be worth a few quid.
I also bought Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the box edition, and now I kind of regret that.
I think for Octopath Traveler, I went to 5 different games to try and buy that. The box edition.
Have you?
Have you got one? No. Oh, next one. Can you phone ahead to the next one?
You should just order it off old Amazon. Like,
Yeah. Like,
No, I'm old school.
How about you, Luke? Have you got anything?
No, I was only going to say the stuff that Charles Martinet sort of signed and gave me.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I forgot we've got not postcards, like pictures of Charles Martinet. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
And I've got what did he sign? He signed something for you.
He
didn't
signed my Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very cool.
You had
He signed my
cartridge,
Smash
right?
Brothers,
Yeah.
and he signed my Mario 64, my original Smash Brothers 64, and my Mario Kart 64.
So when that comes up on eBay, you know.
It does say too Lukey though. On it, so.
Too
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I've got a few old like things. Oh, I've got the God, this is all about the stuff I've got like a hoarder over the years. But I've got the Metroid Prime Trilogy for Wii.
The box.
Yeah, which is quite rare from all accounts. They then put it out digitally, but I suppose it's still cool to have the box. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, when I think of all the stuff I binned as a kid. Oh no, I didn't throw away, but I sold it for nothing. So when I
this booklet and box.
Yeah, well, I had that's the tragedy. I had all of it perfectly pristine. I was a very sad kid, and
seriously sad.
And when I came to upgrade from like my Super Nintendo to my PlayStation, I just sold all of the. So I had like Final Fantasy, what was 3? It's actually 6, but in the States they called it Final Fantasy 3 at the time. but it's actually like what we now know as Final Fantasy VI. And it was like the American copy of it, and it had like the map and all this stuff. And it was like, these days it's worth an absolute fortune. And I just, I don't know, I probably sold it for like £4 or something to the local game shop. Like, it's nuts, isn't it? Like, who would have known that games like that would have been so expensive once, like in the future? Yeah. I certainly didn't as an idiot, 10-year-old or whatever old age I was. And then I did it all again with the PlayStation 1, and like I had like Suikoden 1 and 2, and oh man, makes me angry.
You angry at past
Mike?
Mike.
Which is why, angry at past Mike, which is why I have like a tendency to keep all the stuff for probably too long now, because I'm always thinking, well, what might be the next big thing?
You never know in the future when Stadia comes along and everything's digital, having physical things.
Yeah, maybe. It'd be like vinyl all over again, wouldn't it?
Exactly.
Moving on. So we've got a few other select collections here, right?
So the next one I've got here is the largest collection of Tomb Raider memorabilia. Ooh. And that belongs to Rodrigo Martin Santos from Spain, and consists of 3,050 distinct items. Wow. That was as of the 26th of September 2016.
So if you have more Tomb Raider stuff, you know where to write to.
It says that Rodrigo started collecting Tomb Raider memorabilia upon the release of the first game in 1996. So to you guys, has there been any new IPs come out that you're just like, I've got to get in there straight on the ground floor? And
what, to get memorabilia?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
not just the game itself, but like cool things around it.
You've got a Fallout 76 hat, haven't you, which you're very keen on?
No, he gave that to me.
Oh, that was you.
Gave that to Luke.
I knew someone in this room.
That was Secret Santa. That was Secret Santa.
Sorry.
I've got someone bought me a Nuka-Cola keyring. I don't know who that was. Secret Santa. No.
What's the Game Boy game we got? It was the Austin Powers
game.
That
was mine, was it?
And the Coronation Street.
Oh, there's Cuphead.
Yep.
As well.
Cuphead,
Mugman actually.
No, don't have anything really.
Has anyone been tempted by amiibos?
Oh yeah,
I do have a.
You're not going to say amiibo, are you?
No.
I've got
a print of a scene from Fallout 4 because I quite like the game.
What scene is that?
It's just like one from the Rocket Garage.
So this was what, a screenshot you took yourself?
No. It's a print from the game. Like you can buy prints.
Oh, so it's like decoration in the game.
Yeah.
You've got the same decoration.
No. It's like it's.
Explain what this is.
Is it concept art or something?
It's just a landscape.
Yeah, basic concept art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand.
So
we got there.
I understand those words.
It's looked at me such like oddly. What is this kind of print thing you're talking about?
It's a picture.
It's a picture. Yeah. You put them on a wall.
I don't think I've got many like toys of games or anything like that. I've just got the things like the collector's editions I was just talking about. But I don't think I've gone and bought, so I've got like a Jaws thing that's Todd McFarlane Toys put out, but I've never bought the equivalent of that for games. I don't think. What
about your Luigi bright green Christmas jumper?
Oh, I've got that, but that.
Yeah, I never want to see that thing again.
Yeah, good. How about you? Of course, everyone else now wants to know what that is, so maybe I'll wear it next time. I won't. It hurts to wear it.
So moving on to the next one, being the largest collection of Pokemon memorabilia. Ooh. Can you guess this amount?
Okay, well, what we're doing it to the nearest 100?
Yeah, go on then.
I think high.
Yeah. 6,700.
I would say 17,127. If I had to
Somebody's been looking at it. You're exactly right.
Oh, awesome.
And it's achieved by Lisa Courtney from the UK, as verified on the 10th of August 2016. So Lisa made several trips to Japan for the specific purpose of collecting Pokemon merchandise, each time sending around 8 to 12 full boxes back to the UK. Wow. Some of her items in her collection, as well as a Guinness World Records certificate, have been displayed in the Museum of Hartford as part of an exhibition on popular culture. So have you guys ever made an extended journey to get a collectible of some sort? It's all collectible questions.
You really shoehorn that in.
Is that the Museum of Hartford, UK?
Yeah.
Because weirdly, I have been to that museum, but not for the Pokemon exhibit. I must have missed that.
The Museum of Hartford and the Pokemon exhibit. I mean, like, wow. I'm going to make a journey to that.
Yeah. I don't think it's on there anymore, because this is 2016 we're talking about.
Right. It's going to be another no, I'm afraid.
Another no.
Yeah. Sorry.
You love video games, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm all over it.
I've got a bunch of Pokemon cards and stuffed toys in my house.
Where'd you get them from? Where'd you go to?
Shop.
I didn't go
to Japan and have them shipped back. We've got what we've got. We've got an Eevee, We've got a massive Pikachu, like a life-size Pikachu.
It's your so you've got a son. Has he ever
it's all
sent you
mine,
out?
though.
Has he ever sent you out on any crazy wild goose chases for anything like for Christmas or whatever?
Get me a life-size
You have to go
Pikachu.
get Turbo Man.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet, but I'm sure it will happen.
Yeah.
I was a terror to my mum and dad. I remember one Christmas I had them getting me Super Star Wars and Super Nintendo, and it was only available in Japan. And bless my dad, he got it for me.
Did he fly over there?
He must have, I don't know. He must have
It's
done
gone for
some
2 weeks.
Odd thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You just come back dishevelled.
Poor guy.
On a journey.
Which now knowing my dad as an adult and what level of game knowledge he has, it was like some feat to actually find
He must
that.
have got
Very
it
impressive.
from the back of a magazine or something.
Yeah, I have no idea how
Wow.
we got all
Probably
of it.
paid like 200 quid for it.
I know, he probably did in them days.
Oh, goodness knows what he did to get those stuff.
And then you went on ahead and sold it.
And then
right?
I sold it.
Yeah.
Sold it for £1.
Straight away.
Oh
Thanks,
well,
Dad. It's
I
rubbish.
lost you.
Thus endeth on the record.
Cool. Yeah, so it's great to get like the largest video game collection. That is really cool to get. If anyone out there does have a massive stash of X for games, then let us know. You can go to our website, guinnessworldrecords.com, and we'll be able to help you. There is you have to get it verified, which does mean that all the things have to be counted and listed and stuff. So there is a little bit to it, but
Can
You
I,
can't just believe
well
it.
worth doing.
can I get a record for the smallest collection of Tomb Raider?
I'm afraid not.
memorabilia? I mean, like literally nothing.
I was going to say that's not breakable. That's not a breakable
That is-
record
that
because
is
0
not how
is
we
it.
work.
Someone
I'm
easy
Or 1
break
would
it.
be it because
So-
you'd have to have a collection.
What if you bought one and destroyed it immediately? Then you'd have -1.
No, you just have none.
Well, all right, we can argue over the rules later on. That sounds like a possible record.
No, it
No,
doesn't.
right,
It
okay.
doesn't. Cool. That is all the time we've got this week. Google took a chunk of our show. I don't know.
Stadia.
Bad Google. Stadia.
Stadia.
I know. I keep thinking of Phil Collins as well. Weird. So yeah, that has been all we've got time for. Thank you so much for listening. And as I say, if you want to check out our older shows, please just check Google GWR Gamers, and you'll be able to find our podcast on all the various channels and indeed YouTube. Right, I've been Mike Plant. This has been Luke Wakeham, Jack Turner, and Andy Lucklin.
Goodbye.
Until next week. Cheers, guys.
Bye. See ya.
Bye.